Right now, the largest city in Southeast Asia is sinking, faster than any other city on Earth. Not by millimeters. In some neighborhoods, the ground drops 25 centimeters every single year. 10 million people live here, and their government has already made a decision that sounds like science fiction. Abandon the capital and build a new one in the jungle of Borneo. This is Jakarta, the capital of Indonesia. Or at least it still is, for now. Walk through North Jakarta today, and you'll see things that don't make sense. Mosques abandoned in the sea. Houses where the front door sits below the waterline. A seawall that has to be raised again and again because the wall itself is sinking. About 40% of North Jakarta already lies below sea level. There's a monument in the harbor district showing where the ground stood in 1974. The difference is 4.5 meters. Entire neighborhoods have dropped the height of a two-story building within a single lifetime. So what's going on? The obvious suspect is climate change and rising seas. And yes, the ocean is rising, about 3 to 4 millimeters a year. But that's not the real story here. Jakarta's problem is up to 60 times faster than that. The city isn't drowning, it's collapsing. The real culprit is under your feet, groundwater. Jakarta sits on a soft, swampy river delta, layers of loose sediment that compress easily. And for decades, the city's been pumping water out of those layers at an industrial scale. Here's the cruel irony. Jakarta has plenty of water. 13 rivers run through it, and it rains constantly. But piped, clean water never reached large parts of the city. So what do millions of households and businesses do? They drill private wells and they pump. Every liter pulled from the ground leaves the soil a little emptier. The sediment compacts like a sponge drying out. And on top of that compacting ground, Jakarta kept building. Heavier and heavier towers pressing down on soil that was already giving way. Scientists measured groundwater under central Jakarta and found it had dropped by as much as 25 meters over the last century. The land followed it down. Average subsidence runs several centimeters a year, but in the worst coastal pockets, it reached 25 centimeters a year. And when the land sinks, water finds you. In 2007, a monsoon flood put nearly half the city underwater and drove hundreds of thousands of people from their homes. Floods like that used to be rare. Now, flooding is simply part of life in the lowest districts.
Researchers modeling the subsidence reached a brutal conclusion. If nothing changes, by mid-century, 95% of North Jakarta could be below sea level. That's not a remote sandbar. That's home to millions of people. The government's answer came in 2019, and it stunned the world. Indonesia would move its capital, not to another existing city, to a brand new one, carved out of the rainforest of Borneo, 1,200 kilometers away. Its name, Nusantara. The price tag is staggering, more than $30 billion for government districts, a presidential palace, and infrastructure for millions of future residents. In 2024, the first government offices officially began moving, and the current president has doubled down, promising Nusantara will become the true political capital. But here's the uncomfortable part. Moving the government doesn't save Jakarta. The ministries leave. The 10 million people stay on the same sinking ground. Saving the city itself is a separate plan, estimated at another $40 billion, including a giant seawall across the bay. There is one proven fix, and it isn't glamorous. Stop pumping. Tokyo faced the same nightmare in the 1960s. Parts of the city were sinking over 20 centimeters a year. Japan restricted groundwater extraction, built out piped water, and the sinking essentially stopped. Jakarta knows this. Authorities have taxed and restricted wells and pledged universal piped water, but replacing the water supply of a 10 million person megacity takes decades, and the clock under Jakarta is still running. And Jakarta is not alone. Ho Chi Minh City, Bangkok, Manila, Lagos, even Houston, dozens of coastal cities are sinking from the same combination: soft ground, heavy buildings, and too many wells. The sea doesn't have to rise to swallow a city. Sometimes the city sinks to meet it. Jakarta is the warning the world can watch in real time. A megacity racing to rebuild its foundations while its government builds an escape hatch in the jungle. The question isn't whether we can engineer our way out, it's whether we start before the water arrives. If this story surprised you, there's a lot more like it, and most of it is already happening.